Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, before we get started, if you could give me a like, share, a thumbs up, comment, don't forget that subscribe and notification button. I would appreciate it. So today we're actually going to do something a little bit different. And this is actually taken from um, Wikipedia as well as Reddit. And I have to tell you that I'm just learning Reddit and it's really, really cool, but it takes a little bit to navigate. Um, but I did find this. It's actually a timeline of everything that happened with Mackenzie Shirilla. And I know a lot of people are covering her and um, the big sister Unhinged. That's Dominic's sister. She's doing a podcast and doing some really cool stuff over on her page. Moms for Justice, YouTube Streets, AG Tactical, Pino, um, a lot of great content creators are covering this, and I will try to get their pages uploaded to this as well, or at least tag them in this. So I will do that, but I wanted to go over this. I thought it was a really good timeline. And if you haven't been following this, it's kind of just to get everybody up to speed of what happened and where it kind of went as far as media goes. Not so much with TikTok and all the um, controversies, I'll say it that way, surrounding this, but the timeline of the facts. So here we go, or what we think the facts are, I should say it that way. So this happened in Strongsville, Ohio on July 31st, 2022. The weapon used a 2018 Toyota Camry. Victims were Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan. Perpetrator was Mackenzie Shirilla. Convictions: murder 4 counts, felonious assault 4 counts, aggravated vehicular homicide 2 counts. The judge was Nancy Margaret Russo, and the sentence was life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 15 years. The murder of Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan occurred during the early morning hours of July 31st, 2022, when Mackenzie Shirilla intentionally crashed her vehicle into a brick wall in Strongsville, Ohio, United States, killing 2 passengers, her boyfriend Dominic Russo and their friend Davion Flanagan. Multiple documentaries have been made about the case. Both Russo and Flanagan were pronounced dead at the scene, while Shirilla was seriously injured and taken to the hospital. Shirilla was later arrested and charged with the murder of Russo and Flanagan. She was 17 years old at the time of her crime and 18 years old at the time of her arrest. In a 2023 bench trial, the judge concluded she intentionally crashed the car in an act of premeditated murder. Shirilla was convicted of 12 felony charges and sentenced to 2 concurrent life sentences with the possibility of parole after 15 years. As of 2026, she was incarcerated at the Ohio Reformatory for Women and has appealed her conviction 3 times as of 2026, each time unsuccessfully. So here is the background. Flanagan, Russo, and Shirilla all lived in Strongsville, Ohio at the time of the crash. Flanagan and Shirilla had recently graduated from Strongsville, Ohio High School. The 3 were part of a large friend group that often spent time together. Davion Flanagan was born March 11, 2003, the oldest of 3 children. When he was 8 years old, he and his sisters, Devine and Dahlia, were adopted by Jamie and Scott Flanagan. Davion was the starting running back at Strongsville High School. During the off-season, he worked part-time as a youth swim coach. After graduation, Davion worked full-time and applied to All-State Hairstyling and Barber College. Barber College with the intention of attending in fall 2023. Dominic Russo was born September 24th, 2001, to Frank and Christine Russo and raised in Strongsville, Ohio. He was close to his family, including his brother Angelo and his sister Christine. He was interested in music, basketball, and stock trading. Mackenzie Shirilla, born August 2nd, 2004, was 17 years old at the time of the crash. As an influencer, she was active on social media and often posted videos of her lifestyle and clothing on her TikTok account. The account had numerous followers, and several companies sent samples of clothing and products for her review. Shirilla and Russo had dated for 4 years, starting when she was 13 and he was 16. The pair started living together in 2021, reportedly at his parents' home. People magazine described their relationship as tumultuous. In text messages obtained by the magazine, Shirilla stated she wanted to quote-unquote kill someone. Russo alleged Shirilla had threatened to stab him. Each accused the other of blackmailing each other, and Russo accused Shirilla of driving like a maniac. Shirilla enjoyed spending time with Russo's family and driving her car through areas of Strongsville. Classmates of Shirilla said she was a fan of Regina George, a character from the movie Mean Girls, and liked to imitate her. Prior incidents. On March 23, 2020, the police and fire departments responded to a suicide threat by a 15-year-old female at the Shirilla home. According to the police report, Shirilla was not taken to the hospital because her parents did not, quote-unquote, think her threats are real and did not believe she would hurt herself. Shirilla's mother, Natalie, testified in court that she had never perceived her daughter to be suicidal. According to Russo's brother, the couple had frequent conflicts and had broken up and reunited multiple times. He told investigators that he had witnessed Dominic calling Shirilla's parents to pick her up because she would not leave his home. A video Dominic Russo filmed days before the crash showed Shirilla threatening to break into his house and key his car. Russo's mother, Christine, said about 6 months before the crash, the relationship between Russo and Shirilla experienced tension again, including multiple claims of Shirilla severely abusing Russo. 2 weeks prior to the crash, Russo had called his mother asking for help because Shirilla was driving erratically. She sent a family friend to pick Russo up, who later told the police he heard Shirilla screaming, quote-unquote, I'm going to wreck this car right now, and saw Shirilla hitting Russo with her hands. The car crash and investigation. On July 30th, 2022, Shirilla, Russo, and Flanagan spent time together in the house hours before the crash. At approximately 10:15 p.m., they attended a graduation party held at the house of Kelly Raja, one of Shirilla's friends. At 11 p.m., the trio drove to the house of their friend Paul Berlinghaus, where they listened to music and smoked marijuana. They stayed there until early morning on July 31st, leaving at 5:30 a.m. At 5:34 a.m., a CCTV camera showed Shirilla's 2018 Toyota Camry slowly turning right from Pearl Road onto Progress Drive. 1 minute later, a second camera captured the car speeding with lights on at the end of Progress Drive. It crossed the T-split with Alameda Drive and accelerated into the Plidco building, with the passenger side of the vehicle colliding with the corner of the structure. On 2022 Google Earth Street View, the impact site could still be seen as a blue plastic sheet covering the wall. The car was traveling at over 100 miles an hour when it crashed. First responders arrived at the scene 45 minutes after the crash to find Russo, Flanagan, and Shirilla unconscious. Shirilla was taken to a nearby hospital while Russo and Flanagan were pronounced dead at the scene. Police found mushrooms and a digital scale in Shirilla's possession. Russo was sitting in the passenger seat of the vehicle at the time of the crash and Flanagan sitting in the back. Responding officers are audible on body camera footage, one saying the car split in two, and another describing it as the worst car crash that he had ever seen. Shirilla was severely injured and suffered multiple bone fractures. She was airlifted to a hospital where she underwent multiple surgeries. Witnesses said that she was inconsolable when she learned Russo and Flanagan died. Shirilla posted multiple videos about her time in the hospital showing the interior of the medical ward. The popularity of her account peaked during her hospital stay. Shirilla showed videos of her sitting in a wheelchair attending concerts. She also posted TikTok videos. One showed her saying, quote unquote, "I'm just one of those girls that can do a lot of drugs and not die." The Halloween after the crash, Shirilla and her friends posted to social media, posing in face paint that made them resemble corpses. This was later shown in court. Although a friend of Shirilla's claimed that they were dressed as rapper Playboy Cardi, Flanagan's sister thought Shirilla's behavior to be callous so soon after the deaths of her friends and raised her suspicious about the events. The victim's family requested that the police investigate the matter more closely. Police initially thought the crash was an accident or possibly it happened due to tampering with the vehicle. However, an expert found the vehicle was in perfect working condition before the crash. The onboard computer systems indicated the accelerator was being pressed at the time of the crash with no use of the brakes. When interrogated, Shirilla claimed she had blacked out during the crash and had no memories of the incident. Her lawyer claimed that Shirilla suffered from POTS, a blood circulation condition that caused momentary blackouts. However, police soon began to believe she had intentionally crashed her vehicle. At her trial, the prosecutor noted that the vehicle had passed through a slight right/left dogleg intersection at high speed before the crash, which required conscious steering action by somebody able to reach the wheel. They believed her intention in crashing the car was to commit murder-suicide because she did not want Russo to break up with her again. The police tracked GPS data from her devices and discovered that she had visited the area near the crash scene 3 days before the incident, likely as a preparation for the crash. And the next one is about arrest, trial, and incarceration. By November 4th, by November 4th, 2022, the police had gathered enough evidence to arrest Shirilla shortly after her discharge from the hospital. She was charged with 17 crimes, including 2 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of drug trafficking. Shirilla chose a bench trial in which a judge determines a person's guilt rather than a jury trial. On August 14, 2023, Shirilla was found guilty by Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas on charges of murder, felonious assault, aggravated vehicular homicide, drug possession, and criminal tools possession. Judge Nancy Margaret Russo, which is no relation to Dominic Russo, said that Shirilla's accidents were premeditated, calling her hell on wheels. Prosecutors said Shirilla had no remorse and used social media videos of her dancing on Halloween as evidence. On August 21st, 2023, the sentencing phase of the trial began. Davine Flanagan, the sister of Davion Flanagan, asked the court to give Shirilla the longest possible sentence. Christine Russo, Dominic Russo's mother, told Shirilla that she should be thankful she is still alive and has a future. Shirilla was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 15 years. She received 2 life sentences, one for each of murders of Russo and Flanagan, to be served concurrently. The judge also permanently suspended her driver's license. After the sentencing, Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office released a statement saying that the murder was premeditated and that Shirilla intentionally drove the car at 5:30 a.m. due to the streets being relatively quiet in the late night and early morning hours. On September 25th, 2023, Shirilla's legal team filed an appeal alleging that there was not enough evidence in the trial for the convictions and the multiple clerical errors that were made during the trial. The appeal was denied. They filed a second appeal on April 24th, 2025. Judge Russo also denied this appeal due to it being filed untimely. In March 2026, the 8th District Court of Appeals upheld Judge Russo's decision to deny her appeal. Shirilla is currently incarcerated at the Ohio Reformatory for Women. Shirilla will be eligible for parole in October 2037. Shortly after the news of the crash, friends of Russo and Flanagan created a small memorial near the crash site to show their support. The family of Davion Flanagan later created the Davion Flanagan Memorial Scholarship to provide education to aspiring barbers to honor his intention of becoming a barber. And we need to remember that Dominic's sister, Christine, she also has the Dominic Russo Fund, and that will go towards children with basketball, things like that. And I believe that that might also go towards Davion too. I'm not sure if it goes towards both boys or not, but the kind of shit thing about this was when they released the one, and I heard this on another podcast, I think it was YouTube Streets that did it, when Dominic's sister had released the fund for Dominic, it was the same day that TikTokers released, I don't think it's a GoFundMe, but something similar, for Mackenzie on the same freaking day. Like, tell me that wasn't planned, but whatever. The next thing is representation in other media. Various companies and streaming services have made documentaries about the case. It was featured in a podcast titled Hell on Wheels on YouTube. Court TV made a documentary about the murders on YouTube, and several videos detailing the case were also uploaded to the platform. True crime series Killer Cases analyzed the case in Season 4, Episode 12 of the series, which aired on Channel 4 and Apple TV. It was also featured in a documentary by Investigation Discovery in 2025. A documentary titled The Crash began streaming on Netflix on May 15th, 2026. And the next step is the interviews. On May 22nd, 2025, Shirilla's parents were interviewed for the first time by WKYC. They said they believed the crash was unintentional. On May 14th, 2026, Shirilla's father told NBC News that they believe she is innocent and was falsely accused of something. He said there was insufficient evidence to convict her of murder and she should have instead been charged with vehicular homicide. Shirilla's mother said their daughter did not receive a fair trial because her lawyer did not use all the information the family provided to defend her. Mackenzie Shirilla appears in the documentary The Crash, interviewed by creators Gareth Johnson and Gerard Scott. I boogered that name up. Her lawyer was present, and she repeated her previous claim of not being able to remember the incident. She said, quote unquote, "I have no recollection of that morning, but I know nothing about it was intentional because that's not my character." Shirilla also claimed she had no intention of causing the accident, saying she was not innocent, but not a murderer either. And there's just a few notes in here. This was actually stated before. Um, it said there was also one count each of drug possession and possessing criminal tools unrelated to the murders. And then Judge Russo is not related to murder victim Dominic Russo. So this one's kind of interesting. This one is from People magazine. It was archived on May 27, 2026, but it was retrieved on June 22nd, 2026. It says, quote unquote, over the course of 4 years, Mackenzie Shirilla and Dominic Russo had a tumultuous relationship. In text messages, Shirilla and Russo got into several heated arguments and made shocking accusations against each other, including allegations of cheating, blackmail, reckless driving, and anger issues. Shirilla told Russo she was going to kill someone in January 2020. Russo wrote in 2 other messages, Kenzie, I made a joke and you threatened to stab me. And you threatened to stab me in the eye. Around 5 months before Shirilla crashed her car into a brick wall and killed him and Flanagan, Russo warned her that she was driving like a maniac. Starting March 2022, Shirilla and Russo both brought up blackmailing the other over various videos and allegations. So that was actually kind of the rundown. And just some things that people are saying on Reddit. I'll just go over some of these just for, just so you know what some of the public is saying. I loved what Davion's dad said about the absolute worst thing that could have happened is that her parents babied her for the whole sentence and she never accepts responsibility. That gave me chills, and he is so right. Yet here they are continuing to enable her and appealing her conviction. Watching her parents and her quote unquote influence her friend in this documentary made me feel such rage. I also want to know what else the prosecutor showed for her character because the TikTok trend videos did not hit for me. He should have showed her the vile text to Dominic instead. Here's a good one. So, on this certain Reddit post, it said this doc left so much stuff out, but let me read that again. This doc left so much stuff out, but that is on brand for Netflix. So, in other words, Netflix didn't show you everything they were supposed to. Here are some additional links I encourage everyone to look through so you can see there's no possible way it was an accident. She was a ticking time bomb that never had been disciplined in her entire life by her shitty parents. 30,000 plus text messages. You can see how toxic the relationship was and how she was completely obsessed with him. It does not excuse the fact that she was living in his house as a minor and was dating him so young. A lot of additional evidence, etc. She was also obsessed with herself and her image and would do anything to keep up with that materialistic life she created for herself. The texts she was sending Dom's mother trying to make herself the victim are disgusting, and she is so detached from reality. And just a random side note, you can still see on the tarp on the building she plowed into on Google Earth. Another one says, I'm still thinking about Natalie Shirilla saying Davion was, quote unquote, a new friend. Something about that statement left a hollow feeling in my chest. Glad the judge called her on it and asked if that meant his life didn't matter as much. And then somebody commented on that, saying that was heartbreaking and infuriating. Her entire impact statement to defend her daughter made me want to throw the remote through my TV. It was so obvious how her daughter turned out the way she did. Not one, I'm so sorry for the absolute horror the families are living through at the hands of my child. I can imagine the heartbreak those families are constantly going through. So, just two more. So, this person says, the deserved backlash she and her family are getting is so interesting. Her father may lose his job. Well, we know he already did now. I wonder if her lawyer thought it was a good idea, because it clearly wasn't. Even her old prison mates are getting interviews and cashing in. What a massive mistake on their part. And then someone else said, I followed this case for a bit of time now, and I'm personally shocked anyone on her side thought this was a good idea. They have always come off as terrible. The jailhouse calls between her and her mother are brutal to listen to. Everyone already knew about the Instagram posts with the brand deal. They've been getting backlash for years about how they've been acting. Maybe thought this would be redeeming, or just that much lack of insight. And this is the last one that we're going to do. This is about the parents. They let their underage daughter move in with her 20-year-old boyfriend because they thought she was mature enough, citing that she cooked with him all the time. Mature enough that she kept getting in trouble for being a bitch to other kids at school. And when she did get in trouble at school, her dad asked, did you do it? No, good enough for me. I wish I could shake these parents. What the fuck is wrong with all of them? Even if she didn't crash that car, they raised her to be a fucking brat. No consequences whatsoever. Um. Okay, we got to go over this one because this is about Rosa and Bubba. Sorry. Um. Actually, it's about Rosie. I'm just sort of loving that her influencer buddy Rosie Graham is not reaping the rewards of her participation in this documentary. She's on camera saying she refused to talk to the cops. The prosecutor agrees with that on camera, that she refused to talk to them. And now she's whining that she did speak to the prosecution. Which is it, Rosie? Because you were proud as fuck to say you didn't on camera. I bet it's affecting her influencer bottom line, and boo-hoo, poor little Rosie ain't making a mint off her participation in a documentary about her friend murdering people. So that was actually quite interesting, I thought. Some of this stuff I wish it would come out before, the trials and things, but naturally it can't. We have to wait till the trial comes out, and you know, we get bits and pieces from there. Um, but just in case that you haven't heard the whole thing and need a, the quick rundown and stuff like that, that is between Wikipedia, Reddit, and what the people of Reddit are saying. Just a few comments, what they are saying about Mackenzie Shirilla. So again, the people that content creators that are covering it, they are doing awesome. And I will put their links up, or tag them, or I'll figure it out. We're still learning the kinks here, but we will get it up there. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and we will talk soon. Have a great day. Bye.